If I had to give advice to anybody wanting to direct, I would say get passionate about a subject, find something you want to do, and just never give up. I was determined to have a long career in the film industry, and I based my scripts and books and projects on having a long life. Because as a film director, I noticed that most of the directors only had a 10-year life professional span, as it were, except for the real greats. I wanted a 30, 40-year period, which I've had. And so I determined not to do genre pictures all the time, but to try and mix up the work that I was doing and take a gamble, and which I did. And I did all sorts of different films. When I first started directing, I was in my early 20s, which was unique in Britain at that time. It was really rare. You normally had to go through a long period and before you ever got a chance to direct, but I was able to circumvent all of that. I began directing second unit on a lot of early English television shows. There were shows called The Champions and The Saint television series and The Avengers television series. I'd always wanted to work for Disney because I loved making films for children, and the fact that Disney came up with the very theme that was my passion and that I wanted to work for them was the clincher in the deal that put us together. When I came to the States to direct Escape to Witch Mountain and went into the Disney studios, it was a big culture shock for me. The whole studio operated in the way that Walt Disney had instigated. It was a wonderful system at the time. Hairdressing, wardrobe, makeup, the art department, everything was really departmentalized, and they're all experts. The visual effects department at Disney during this period was quite an interesting situation. What would happen is that I would take the screenplay and read a scene. I would then have a storyboard artist that was assigned to me, and I would discuss all the ideas that I had on what to do with that scene and how to make it visual from my point of view as a director. And what they would do is that they would practice the special effects out of the back lot at Disney, weeks and weeks and weeks in advance, and perfect them. It was a very creative time, and you had time to be creative when you weren't actually filming. I had a sense that Walt Disney's presence was still around the studio during my period there, but my overriding sense was the creativity of all the people there. We tend to think that everybody thinks like us, but they don't. People go the entire day without having a creative thought, and we can't believe that because we're having creative thoughts all the time. The spirit was wonderful though, and it was the Disney as it used to be. When Disney approached me for a sequel to Witch Mountain, it was 2 years after the original. And whenever I've got sequences with villains, I go very stylistic and shoot in sort of tricky camera angles and things. When I'm dealing with the heroes, I shoot in a more traditional way, and I took the same style with me into Return to Witch Mountain, and in fact this style is in all my films. I often compose the same sort of shots in everything that I do, and I just rework the sort of style of composition. Even in my sort of approach to the supernatural, I have a sort of childlike wonderment. And so I just directed the film for myself, knowing that I was the Disney audience, and I think that's why they were both successful. I think you have to ask yourself when you're directing, how do you visualize something? I know what I do. I actually dream it. I actually read the script, or I read the book, and I actually dream the scene being played out in front of me. Before I ever get to do anything about it, I see it. I see actors playing the words, saying the words, doing the moves, and I know that's how I want that scene to go. and you really you set the environment to get the best performance from them, the most believable performance. That's what you set out to do as a director, and whatever that takes, and if you have to be intimidating, you can be. If you have to be soft, you can be. You have to be a little bit of a psychologist, I think, to get out the best in people. But the final thing I say on directing is all about how you feel. It's not the mechanics, and it's not what you achieve on any one day. It's, do you actually get to share what you're feeling with other people? That's why I'm in it, and I suspect a lot of other directors are in it. And I haven't finished yet. I've got unfinished business. I've still got feelings I want to share, and it can be supernatural. It can be psychic. It can be all sorts of different things. It's just not one feeling. You just want to make films about a vast different array of emotions. You want to do something, whatever it is, that has some kind of influence on people and stay in power. And that just relates back to what I was saying about the Disney films and about why I wanted to do the Disney films and why I'm so pleased about them, is that what I thought came true. Is that I thought that kids would see them, grow up, and would remember them when they are adults, and that's happened. And yeah, I did it, and 15 years later, they're still being screened.